Perfect. And this is me speaking. I'm not going to keep my video on for very long, just to so you can focus on the message and not on me. So I'm going to log off my video now and continue with the message. So for a while now, I've been toying with this idea of a foundation and what it means to build your house on a proper, solid foundation. Well, first of all, good morning, brothers and sisters and friends. It's an honor for me to be exhorting you this morning, and it's something that I do not take lightly. I'm sure we have all seen and thought to ourselves, how are these massive structures built? And then in the same words, we might have seen other things that we think, how on earth are these things still standing? In Matthew 7, verse 23 onward, it says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and put them into practice, it is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had a foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, and the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash." And that will then bring me to my exhortation this morning. Building on a solid foundation, but before we continue, I have a question for all of you here today. On what foundation are you building your house? And then this next question is, what foundation are you laying down? Is it of the wise man or of the foolish man? I was privileged enough to work on the Gautrain quite a few years back. But even before that, I found big buildings and engineering marvels quite interesting. And with a construction background, I had quite fun working on these massive projects and seeing how things were built. And the amount of research that went into this and planning was quite fascinating to me. I'm just going to share a few photos with you on the Gautrain project. I'm sure all of you have seen these photos probably, or have an idea of the Gautrain, or even went on it before. So this is what one of the bridges would look like in the preparation phases. And on the bridge, you'll see there's quite a big gap on the pillar, and then all the way to the left and to the right. Those things are called segments. And the ones standing on the pillar, they weigh anything from 60 to 75 tons, depending on the size of the bridge between pillar to pillar. And I'm going to run through a few pictures to show you what the insides look like and how they were constructed. So this was the bridge where I was working in Midrand. This was viaduct number 3. And this was quite fascinating to me, is they started from pillar to pillar, but on these pillars, you would see these massive gantries. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how the segments then fell into place on them. But first, this is a rig that was built in order for them to do the steel work or the form work in it. And each different segment had its own rig to accompany for the size and the amount of steel that needed to go in there. So from there, it was transported onto the bays, and in the bays, your first segment or the SOP would be casted first. Then this little machine moves out, the formwork gets put in, this machine moves back, and then the side formworks went into place. A lot of work that went in, and then the next one was cast on to this. So you'll see there's a whitish chemical on the cement slab, and that was just normal wax. So when they take the segments apart, the formwork won't stick to each other. And that way they knew that all of these were given different numbers, where it went, which position it was, and then which number viaduct, which one it would fall into. So for argument's sake, this was viaduct 3, section 2, number 4. Then on the next one would be number 5, and that get cast onto that. So when they put them onto the bridge, all of these would fit into each other. So the one on top was just a normal segment, and then the one at the bottom was the third one in the sequence. And these one would also weigh about 50 to 60 tons. Then we had massive cranes like these that would transport from the loading bay or from the building bay to the cleaning bay. And if you see, this was the first one in the section. So this one would have been on the pillar where all the cables would have gone through. So this is what the gantry looks like on top. There's a big mobile crane. And then this moves as the segments go. So you'll see there's one slot being slot in now. And on top, the next one is ready, and those numbers would follow on top of each other. So here's just a side view and how one crane lifts it up onto the gantry. The gantry has its own little crane. And these pillars would just slot on top of this column. Now, the funny thing is there wasn't any massive things holding it placed. It was pure force and weight. So it would clip on there, and these things would clip onto or push against the pillar to make sure it doesn't fall over. And this thing would then run between these pillars. So here you'll see the segments being loaded, and all of them are being done with a little trolley jack like that, hydraulic jack. So it first gets lifted, this thing gets pushed underneath, gets lifted up, and then gets transported, like you can see on the left, to fit into place. So like I mentioned, here's number 3, the third one in the, and so they, and the next one would come, and you'll see they put a little white chemical there. That's glue that keeps the bridge together. So just to put it into perspective, that's what keeps the cement together. And then on the inside of the bridge, there was tie rods to pull everything in place. And then they would come and bring this massive machine with all these cables. But before these cables were put in, a little bullet was shot from one side of the bridge all the way to the other side. And then they'll come pull these massive cables through. These little combs were used to keep the cables in place so they don't move, and massive hydraulic pressure was applied. So this is what one of the segments would look like after it's been caulked and pulled and cut. But the thing I found the most fascinating, the thing that keeps this 200 to 300 odd ton bridge in the air are 4 hydraulic jacks with a lot of plates. So when the bridge is in place, these hydraulic jacks will fall down, the plate would be removed, and that one bearing is what's keeping the whole bridge intact, and it gives it the ability to move 1 or 2 millimeters forward, backwards, left and right. So this is what it would look like on the inside of the bridge with all the cables and things running already. So that's to give you an idea what the size of those things are on the inside. On the inside, I'm quite tall. I can stand on these things and walk on them without even, I have to lift my hands to touch the top. So there's just an indication that person was also about 1.8, 1.9 meters high. And that's him standing against one of these things, and what it looks like from the bottom. And then these are just a pure diagram to tell you what it would look like. So there's cables running on the inside as well. And then from the top all the way through these deviation blocks. And then the anchors, what it would look like when it was done. A lot of cables, a lot of sheaths, and then a lot of graft went into that to make sure it was. So let's go back to what it is to build your house on a solid foundation. So you're probably wondering, how has this got anything to do with my exhort, and why are you here today? So in 1 Corinthians 3, verse 10 to 11, it says, According to the grace of God given to you, like a skilled master builder, I lay a foundation and someone else is building upon it. Let each one take care how he is building upon it, for no one can lay a foundation other than which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. And brothers and sisters and friends, this brings me back to my question I asked you in the beginning. On what foundation are you building your house? And then also, what foundation are you laying down for others to build on? Thinking back onto Jesus, who was the perfect master builder, always square and always plumb. He set the perfect foundation for us to build on. Now, what do I mean by this? It is easy. Every one of us are building our own house as we speak, building a life for ourselves. Some of us are getting a building team in to do it for us, and the others are doing it themselves. In our street, we have two houses that's currently being built. One of them are being built by our team, and the other one is built by the owner of the house. Now, the difference with these two, the owner has been building his house for the past 2 years. Since we've moved to Hopefield, he has been busy building on that house. And the other one, where the building team is, it's just been over 2.5 months now, and the house is already busy in the preparation phases, where the owner of the house is only 10 courses high. And it made me think, what does this have to do with me? And I'm sure you might have had that same thought as we were going on. Well, brothers and sisters and friends, it has got a lot to do with us. As we read in Isaiah 28, verse 16, therefore, thus says the Lord, behold, I am the one who has laid a foundation in Zion, a stone, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone of a sure foundation. Whoever believes will not be in haste. And it brings me back to, when we build our own houses, we mustn't haste to finish it. We mustn't do it too quickly, because so many things can go wrong. And the big difference is between the two houses that's being built. It's the same with us. The house being built by the owner is square and true, and it's being built by love, passion, care, and understanding. And the house being built by the building team, to them, it's just another project that needs to get done, and mistakes will be made, and a lot have been made already. The walls are not done correctly, the floor is uneven, the doors are not square, and the list goes on and on and on. In Proverbs 24, verse 3, we read, by wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established. The same with our lives. If we build our life, we are building on a plans that we have drawn up, a house that we love and take care in building our lives, and our perfect architect is Jesus. And we know that there are no mistakes on that plan. And even though we take shortcuts and make mistakes, God will always forgive us and erase our mistakes, so we can continue to build the perfect house for us and our loved ones. But when we build in a building or a house, and we get a team in, mistakes starts creeping in from day one. They build in the style that they are comfortable with. And if we don't protect ourselves, from the beginning, that might start happening to us as well. We might need to start working after hours in fixing all the mistakes the builders have made, to smooth out the walls and getting it ready so we can move in. When we just hear the word of God and we do nothing about it, the building team is building our house. But when we hear the words of God and actively go out and do what we are told, then we are building our own house. In James 1, verse 22 to 25, but be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away, at once forgets what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty and perverseness, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doings. I'm sure when you started your journey to be baptized, you did not think to yourself, I'm going to get baptized, sit back and relax. I'm baptized, so I'm saved, right? No, we were baptized to live a perfect life, or the best life we could, full of hope and reward. In 1 Corinthians 12, verse 12 to 14, for just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body through many are one body, so it is with Christ. For one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we all were made to drink of one Spirit. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should not say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, what would not make it any less part of the body? And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, what would not make it less part of the body? Brothers, sisters, and friends, even though we built our house on a perfect foundation, we build a perfect house, all square and all plumb and true. There will always be problems, people trying to break into our houses, trying to steal what we have worked so hard to build. But this only can happen if we allow it to happen. So now what do we need to do to protect our perfect house? We build a fence around our property. We surround ourselves with like-minded people and we meet with them as often as we can. Psalm 1, verse 1 to 6. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But he delights in the law of the Lord, and on his own he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yield its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prosper. The wicked are not so, but like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Then we need to add some lights on the outside so that we can see when the intruders are coming, or if we go outside to walk, so we don't walk in darkness. Psalm 119, verse 105. Your word is a lamp to guide my feet and a light for my path. All we need to know is that God is always with us. He will never let anything happen to us that he does not want to happen. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will always provide a way out that you can endure it. Now that your property is protected and you have lights on, what now? Now the hardest part comes. How do we protect ourselves inside our house? Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flow from it. Keep your mouth free of perversity. Keep corrupt talk away from your lips. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the path of your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. Do not turn to the right or the left. Keep your foot from evil. This concept of guarding your heart comes from Proverbs 4, verse 23 to 26. We are reminded of all things that they sorry. We are reminded of all things that try to come against us. Guarding our hearts means being wise and discerning in our lives. Guarding our hearts means protecting ourselves as Christians from all the things that would come to harm us. We have to overcome temptation every single day. We need to find ways to overcome doubt that tend to keep in. We guard our hearts against all kinds of distractions from the faith. Our hearts are fragile. We have to do what it takes to protect it. It's scary how fragile our hearts are, and it's something we should not take lightly. If your heart is the connection to God, what kind of relationship will you have if your heart starts to fail? If we allow all the unkind forces of the world to pull us away from God, our hearts become unhealthy. If we only feed our heart junk from the world, our hearts stop working the way it should, just like our physical health and our spiritual health can fail. If we don't take good care of it, when we let it down, our guards, and forget things that God tells us through the Bible and through prayer, we do damage to our heart and our relationship with God. That is why we are told to guard our hearts. As we come to remember Jesus, let's look at Matthew 5, verse 14 to 16. You are the light of the world, a city that's set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a bucket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Just as Jesus gave his life for us to save us, let us also give our house and life to God so we can save others. Amen.